to episode 11. I am your host, Cody Kelly, joined with my co-host, Scott Brown, and also in studio, our student correspondent, Charlie Meyer.
Good morning, Cody. Go Peacocks.
Yeah, St. Peter's is on a run. Speaking of on a run, we've got a baseball game to go take care of here in a couple hours, so this might be a fairly quick front half of the Indians chatter. But we do have the baseball roundtable today, which was very interesting. We will talk mostly about the past of Pacific baseball, doing a little bit to the current team, but it's going to be mostly for those alumni that want to hear about some stories throughout the years.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that in.
And then now, before we get going, we'll start out at Riverbend for the Riverbend Roundup. There's not a lot going on.
No, the track team got a practice in yesterday, late while we were working on the field, but they open up next Monday at Owensville, and I think it's a try or a quad meet for their first meet of the year. I know the kids are looking forward to it, but I think they got to enjoy a little bit of time off and spring break, getting ready for the last push to the end of the school year.
Yeah, that's going to pretty much do it for the Riverbend Roundup. We'll look forward to their meet on Monday. Gives us a little something to talk about out there. So let's go to 425 Indian Warpath Drive, and we will talk about baseball. The varsity opened their season this week with a 5-1 win Saturday at Sullivan and an 11-1 win over Owensville on Monday night to put themselves into the finals of the Four Rivers Conference preseason tournament. However, that game was rained out against Union. I don't know when the makeup will be. Jack Meyer went 5 strong innings for the Indians on the mound against Owensville in that 11-1 win. The bats came alive. Carter Myers 2 hits. Carter Myers also had 2 hits the first game up there against Sullivan as well.
Yeah, I wasn't at the Sullivan game, being at my own, but from what I understand, the energy in the Owensville game was just superior, and it kind of is a raw deal that we got rained out because we could have carried that momentum.
Yeah, and then you were actually at Windsor for JV baseball. I'll let you handle that since you were there for it.
Yeah, the JV took the field for their first 2 on last Saturday at Windsor. We took on Valley St. John and had a little bit of first game jitters. We couldn't catch the baseball very well. We ended up losing 8-5. I think if we played a clean game, that would have been a little bit different result. Then the second game, we ran into a really, really good pitcher for Windsor, and we took a loss to them. And 0-2 to start the season, but I know we're chomping at the bit to get back on the dirt.
And then before we move on to soccer, just another thing is the baseball team was rained out this week against Orchard Farms as well. So next week the schedule looks jam-packed with a game today against the Berg, 2 next week against Orchard Farms, a game against Borgia and St. Charles next week.
Yeah, we're going to be busy people during the week. The freshmen also get started next week on Tuesday at home against Hillsborough, after school.
And then they go to Zumwalt North on Thursday. Yeah, it's going to be a busy week because we also got to go back to school next week.
Yeah, the soccer team's off to a pretty good start. The girls are 2-1-1 to start the season. They have shutout wins over St. Clair and Owensville. In the tournament, they lost a close one to a good Northwest team, and they tied a good Borgia team 1-1. So the girls are filling up the stat sheet a little bit, playing some good soccer, and they have a home game Monday against Sullivan.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, we go to golf. They did not get their meet in this week, so they're still waiting for their first opportunity to get out of the course and get some things done. I believe they have a tournament coming up this week. Hopefully the rain will stay away long enough that they can get it in. And before we go to track, we're going to actually throw down to Charlie's Corner. He is going to cover the track meet for us this week. There was some pretty impressive feats done this week on the track side. So let's go to Charlie's Corner. All right, Charlie, take it away.
Yeah, so on Tuesday of this last week, we had a home meet. It was a quad meet against New Haven, Washington, and Borgia. The varsity boys placed second, the JV boys placed second, the varsity girls placed second, and the JV girls placed third. And it was definitely a good first meet, and I think our next meet is on Thursday the 31st at Union. That is against Union, New Haven, St. Clair, and Sullivan, and that will start at 4 p.m. if you'd like to come out and support the team.
Charlie, I saw a couple of the event results. How did you throw? How did you do in your first meet?
I threw pretty good. I got second in JV Jav, and I threw 27.76 meters. Third in disc, and I got 24.18 meters, and then fifth in shot, throwing 8.46 meters.
So track's going back to meters instead of feet, huh? Have they made that? Did they make that switch last year? Were they doing meters?
Yeah, last year they were doing meters. I
Really?
don't know if they had changed it before.
I'm gonna have to work on my conversions.
We're going to get a conversion chart for in here because he says 27 meters, and I don't know. That could
I'm
be,
thinking 82 feet,
that
something
could,
like
that
that.
could be
Yeah, it's
1,000
like-
feet for all I know. I have no clue.
That's like 3.3 something.
Okay. All right, continue.
I mean, that's really all I got.
We'll hear from you a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie have a performance of the week though. Let me jump in though, just right now though, because it might be a hint as to what it could be. Lexi Lay broke the long jump school record, and Satch Wolf broke the 110 meter hurdles school record. So I just wanted to get that out there. That's a pretty good feat. The first meet out to break some school records. We talked to Coach Bendersky earlier this week. He will be on next week's show, where he kind of mentions a little bit about how the school records are usually broke early or late. So we'll see if they can't build upon them as the year goes on.
Yeah, that's exciting for the first meet.
So now let's move ahead to everybody's favorite segment, Performance of the Week. Performance of the Week time. Let's throw it over to Charlie to start us off on the Performance of the Week.
Yeah, so I was pretty excited about getting our performance of the week this week. People have been asking me when it's going to happen, and, it finally did. So this week, I'm going to pick Satch Wolf for breaking the school record for the 110 meter hurdles. He also placed first with a time of 14.82, beating second place by almost 2 seconds. He also placed first in varsity long jump with 6.23 meters, and first in the 300 meter hurdles, and second in varsity javelin. And then I'm also going to give a shout out to Lexi Lay for getting first, or breaking the record in the girls long jump, and she also does AAU track and competes in other events.
Two fantastic athletes right there.
Yeah, it's a great start. We got some sports going. We finally got some performances that we can really put out there.
Yeah, I'm jumping in next, Kelly. My performance of the week is the goalie, or the rock for that soccer team. Emmeline Steele has had a really good start to the season. She's had 2 shutouts. She made the all-tournament team at Rolla. I know they can count on her big time at the back. When teams do start peppering our goals, she's really, really solid, and she's a leader back there with lots of soccer experience. They're going to lean on her the rest of the season, especially during those tough games. But my performance of the week to Emmeline Steele, the soccer team.
Well, that's going to leave me with baseball, I guess, to choose from. I'll go with Carter Myers, who started the year 4 for 5 at the plate with 2 RBIs. Not to mention he's thrown out, I think, 4 or 5 base runners already to start the season. It's a pretty strong start behind the dish. You put the tools of ignorance on, as they say in baseball, and go back there and get beat up, and he's still able to perform at the plate and defensively. So to start the year, Carter Myers is my performance of the week.
If the word's not out on him, it will be soon. Don't get a big lead off.
Yeah, they're going to find out today, Bishop DeBerg, because they're not in our conference. I'm sure they don't have a whole lot to go on yet.
No, we've had some good catchers, but his arm is pretty unique. He really likes to fire that baseball, and he's in tune with his infielders for his pickoffs too.
Yeah, and then speaking of baseball, we're about to go right into the round table, which I won't lie to you guys. This was one of our longer interviews we've had, but it's a pretty fun interview to sit there and just to hear about the history from Coach Brown and Coach Reed, because they've been here for quite a while.
Yeah, I think we mentioned the decades even.
And now, before we move on, though, we got the Elite Eight tonight. You got Final Four picks or anything, or just give me a national champion? Mine was Arizona last week, so they're out, so I'll change it.
Yeah, I had the Zags. Winning it in my bracket, but man, it's setting up for a Coach K swan song. He's gonna at least probably get to the title game, and he might get a few calls in the championship game as well. If he could go out on top, that would be a great storyline for coaching the Dukies for 42 years and going out as a national champ.
Yeah, I kind of think I'm going to go with Houston because their size has proved to be a kind of a tough thing for some teams to handle. So I'll take Houston now, and I'll change it next week.
Got anybody, Charlie? Have you been watching?
I haven't really paid attention this year. I've been a little focused on track.
Yeah. Miami was impressive last night too. They've got an old coach. He might be in his 70s, like Coach K, an older coach. Yeah, and he's an exciting guy on the sidelines, and they've got a nice team too. So I can't wait to watch the games tonight.
Yeah, Jim Larenega's done a pretty good job with that Miami team. So before we get out of here, just one last reminder: the Baseball Roundtable is up next, so do not go anywhere. And we're back in studio today for a little baseball roundtable. I'm joined with freshman baseball coach Ryan Carter, JV baseball coach Scott Brown, and varsity baseball coach Jeff Reed. Thank you guys all for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
Back again.
Yeah, me and you are always here. So we got a little roundtable. We did this one with the basketball team. We'll just kind of throw it out there and let you guys sort of talk about things before we dive in. Coach Reed is the most tenured head coach here at Pacific High School, I believe by a bit.
Saying I'm old?
A little bit. We had that stat the other day at Owensville in our first game that his 2 assistant coaches he brought were 5 years old whenever he started his first season. So we got that. Coach Brown's been here just as long. And then Coach Carter's here on 6 years now.
7 years.
7 years, and I'm on 12. 26 for the other 2, I believe. Just over the course of all those years, you guys have had to have some pretty fun and interesting teams. I've been able to see quite a few of them. So just any moments that sort of jump out at you? We're not really necessarily saying best moment or best team, just anything that kind of jumps out. I mean, you guys have had a lot of talent come through Pacific over those years.
I mean, I think, just being blessed with good players year in, year out, good parents, and, just helps solidify our program.
Yeah, you told me earlier and made it sound a little bit worse even than we're really old guys. 4 decades. We've been involved in Pacific baseball for 4 decades. And if you go back to Coach Reed and I playing baseball at Pacific, we were into the 80s. So I guess we could go into that 5th decade that we've been a part of Indian baseball. But like Coach said, we've been blessed. Great players, great parents, good support from the administration, and usually had some good products on the field.
Well, and we kind of talked about that. You guys, 90s was the first year you're around, then you're here for the aughts, the 10s, and now into the 20s. So, course of 4 decades, and then, like you said, even playing, I didn't think about that. So, it's been a lot of Pacific baseball for you guys. It's been a lot of Pacific baseball for everybody in this room, because we do have the one thing that no other staff has, is we are all homegrown Pacific graduates, which I think is pretty impressive. Me and Coach Carter coming through the program, and then now in our new roles. Is it a different, big change for you, Coach, Carter, to jump into that?
Oh, huge change. I think one change that probably has stayed the same is Coach Reed's whistle. I know I can vouch for all players. I think my very first day as a assistant, he gave a whistle to some guys, and we're out in the hallway, and I was on my way out there with him and started laughing. I had to tell Coach that, and that's something that hasn't changed in just the tradition of everything.
The whistle for sure, because anybody that's listened to us has played here still whips their head around whenever they hear the whistle. We have people running laps at trivia night because of the whistle. So it's just kind of a normal thing. Coach, we could jump into your first district title team, 2002. It's pretty fun group there, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great group. Ronnie Ray, Jack McDaniel, Husserow, Potter. There was a lot of good names there, and some guys that went on to play college baseball, and Ronnie even went to the minors and hung around there for a pretty long time. So that was a special group.
The best name in Four Rivers history was with that group, Liwapatana Pitchit. It took me a while to learn how to spell that because I coached him in basketball too. But man, what a group of characters that crew was. And I think if we could go back and do it again, I just don't see how that team didn't sneak into the Final Four, because they were great kids, but man, could they play baseball too. They
love to be around baseball.
And then we talked about Final Four. You do have a Final Four team, the 05 team. That was a fun run. That was right before we got into high school, Coach Carter, but we got to see all of that run.
Yeah, Hall and Hagan pretty much took us where we needed to go on the mound. Those guys got set up where, they were throwing one game here and then the other one would throw, and it was just some good baseball there too. I remember being down at North County and just knowing that we're headed that way and seeing that final out. I can still see that. Just awesome.
And the ball bounced really well for us that year. We got hot late in the year, and those guys pitched really well. But sometimes it takes an element of luck. The baseball god shined down upon us. And I remember some other years that we should have gone further, and we didn't get that bounce. The 90s group, Coach Reed with Jansen and Israelson and Gilman, they deserved a better fate. What a great team that was in the 90s. And we just caught a couple of bad breaks playing Eureka in the districts, or that group would have a lot more banners on the wall too.
Yeah, I mean, there were some years where, we kind of got stuck where, we're in between 3A and 4A. And, if we'd have, bounced back the other way of maybe being in the lower class, I know that there was a few years that I guarantee we would have taken a couple more trips to state.
Yeah, we had, I think in that run too, like, the biggest rivalry we've had was with Sullivan, and they seemed to stay down in that 3A range. So we would have had to fight through them a lot of those years. But we had some fun matchups with the Sullivan Eagles over the years. I remember that they had a quality squad, as many of the years we had our good teams too. Definitely.
Coach Thornsberry put out a good product up there also.
Yeah, I kind of caught up with him yesterday just in preparation for this. He was there from 2000 to 2011. Just the rivalry Pacific and Sullivan had throughout all those years. I mean, it was pretty hot, like a hot rivalry. There was some hatred there between the two teams.
Well, I think if you look at the banners, I think if we don't have the conference title, they do during that time.
Yeah, that's what I texted with him, and we were talking about just kind of back and forth. But he was kind of fun because we had him here for a year too after he left Sullivan, so he wasn't as bad as we thought he was being up at Sullivan. I told him I'd take one little shot at him, but that was it. So
there's mutual respect between our programs, but I wouldn't say that the kids liked each other very much. And there were some interesting battles out on the field that were really fun.
Definitely.
And then you guys broke that, got through with that first district in 2002, and now since then we've kind of ran off a few over that time frame. And I know Coach Carter's dying to tell the one story from 2008. Which that was the team that started the district run at 8-12 and got hot. Is there a story from that you were wanting to say?
I mean, there's a couple. The biggest thing, just from players' standpoint, is if you know the movie Major League, we kind of had a players-only meeting, and we're trying to figure out we don't want to be the Team Pacific to finish 500, or at least be able to get above it. So we had a team meeting, and we had decided that we needed to win the whole thing and get to state. And then come district time, right before championship, I know Coach Reed had told us a story about Eskimos and doing whatever it takes, and said they would keep their worms in their mouth. And sure enough, Coach Reed pulls out a foil of live worms, sticks it in his mouth. He had them in there, I think, till at least the fourth inning. And you're just sitting there going, I can't believe this guy's doing it, and it really taught us a lesson to do whatever it takes. And that team really did. We scratched and clawed our way to quarterfinals. And I think we finished above 500, didn't we? One game?
11-13, just came short. We needed to win that quarterfinal game, but it was a pretty good run. Mm-hmm. That's a moment that people talk about a lot, is the championship game at Sullivan against Union, I believe in that 2008 year, the Matt Leary spear on Andrew Wright. That video still, everybody that was a part of that talks about. That's like the one thing that sticks out in that run. Then we move on from 2008. We took that was a younger group that you guys had there that kind of was the nucleus in 2008. And then their senior year in 2010, they took care of business with the best record in school history at 22-2. There was quite a bit of talent on that team. I'll let you guys break it down. I was there for some of it, but
I mean, you got probably one of the best hitters in the school program with Larry. And, Andrew was always solid on the mound. I mean, we had players. I mean, Jake Coulter behind the plate, Jones at short. I mean, I could go around the whole thing. Blake Arnett, I still remember some of the catches he made out in center field. I mean, just amazing. And I mean, what I loved about that group was how close knit and how much of a team they were.
Yeah, it's tough to find baseball teams anymore with the guys that aren't in there that are 100% bought in, and they're watching and they're pulling for their teammates, because it's everybody wants to be on the field and be involved in the action. But when you have such a deep group and lots of kids on the team that can play, there's going to be a couple of guys that got to be role players. And they had the perfect team, like Coach said.
I mean, they knew their roles, and I mean, I still see some pictures of like when somebody hit a home run. I mean, it was just like a fight to get it home plate. I mean, and it's those role guys that were on the bench that they're fighting to get in there too. I mean, Thomas, Scott Null, Zach Carl.
Obi.
I mean, all those guys. Obi. I mean, it was a great group.
Fun to be in the dugout with. We had some great times and great moments, which we can't share all the conversations in the dugout, but we still talk about them today.
Then we moved forward. 2015 was another district championship team, and there were some teams in between the 2015, though, that was one of those, if they were been in the right class, probably makes a deep run there, too. Andrew David, Josh Moore, that group on the
For
mound,
sure.
Nate Bruns, all those guys. That would have been a team, but just sort of got put in there with some real big teams, and it is what it is sometimes. So then we jumped to the 2015, kind of a younger group. They were mostly juniors, had a couple seniors to anchor that group, and that was the first district title I got to see as part of the coaching staff. That was a pretty fun one up at St. Mary's. Stressful, but it was fun.
Yeah, with a district title game, bases loaded, and there was nobody out when we're up and run.
Yeah.
Kid going to Umsel at the plate.
Yeah, it was crazy times. But those are fun.
And then the next year, though, we had that fun team. That team back was the conference year that we won every conference game by a short game, which was pretty impressive.
First time that's ever been done.
Yeah, that was a pretty good goal to go out and do, and we took care of it that year. That was a fun group. That was Coach Carter's first year joining us.
Well, I've got a question for Coach Reed while we're in the middle of this. Obviously, the consistency's been there, and we know people in our town like baseball. But Coach Reed, if you had to say one or two things why we have had so much success and why people would call us a baseball town, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I used to think that it was so much of like the kids playing at a young age, and now I think here lately, some of the things in town have kind of changed and shift where, it's not so much always about the kids playing as, maybe having to go someplace else to play. I mean, I think it's kind of gone downhill a little bit here lately of, kids not having places to play. I mean, not places to practice. I mean, some of our teams have to go to pond to play anymore, and it's kind of shifted. I mean, something that I would like to see is, here coming soon is, us having a feeder program. We don't have a feeder program, and we're one of the most successful teams here. Every other sport here has a feeder team, and we do not. We're some of the first guys to see some of our kids as they walk in as freshmen. And, yes, Coach Brown and I do teach at Riverbend, but we don't get the interaction of actually coaching those guys at a younger age. And I think that would help our program a little bit in the future of actually seeing those guys and letting them do something with us.
Yeah, I agree too. And I think in the years past, we've also feasted on groups of kids that have come in that have played together for a long time with great little league coaches. Their dads have been tuned in, and not saying all dads don't want their kids to be successful, but some kind of have put their kids in a better spot to be successful in high school when they can come in and they can bunt, or they know what a hit and run is, and they can execute plays on the infield, and they can hit with proper mechanics. When those kids come in, it gives us a head start.
Oh, you can definitely see who's had some good coaches, and you can see the teams that have kind of stuck together going through. And I mean, I know that we've got a couple teams like that getting ready to come up and be in the program in a couple years.
Yeah, see, I knew what a bunt was and all that stuff. I just didn't know how to execute any of it, so that's why I make a better coach than a player. But the other one, though, that I had a couple alumni throw out is, what do you think it means to see alumni that want to come to practice and come to games and come to our fundraiser and still talk to us and want to know how the team's doing? What does that kind of mean as a whole for you guys that have been here for this whole entire ride, that you have the kids that still are interested in everything 20-some years later?
I mean, it means the world to me because, I just want to see those kids come back. I want to see them do well in life. I just want to see them succeed. And whenever they want to come back and give back to our younger kids, it just shows that, the type of family that we are.
We have had a lot of hugs here lately. we lost Thomas lately, and just in the last few months, and that family came back together, and that was tough in one way, but it was also gratifying in another way, seeing all of his great friends come back, and the love that they shared and the relationships we've built. That's what it's all about. The hardware is great, the banners are great, but when it comes down to it, that family, and Coach Reed on awards night, you can see it a lot when he's trying to talk about these seniors, and it's tough for him. And I've seen some moments where I didn't know if he was going to finish, because he's tough on them and he makes them great players. But in the end, I think a lot of them do get it, that they're a part of our lives, and we love them all to death. And we any chance we can see them as adults and being successful, that's awesome for us too.
I mean, I think it was funny the other day, Jax, my little guy, he's getting ready to come out to practice, and he looks at Michelle and the girls, and he goes, "I'm going to see my family."
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I was pointing at Coach Carter to see if he had anything he wanted to throw in. He passed. So we talked about that. Then you got some coaches now too from the program. We just talked about Obi with the one team. He's up at Fort Zumwalt North, and then you got Nathan Bruns at Winfield. You got us too.
Vogelsang
Vogelsang
is coaching
Vogelsang,
somewhere near Jeff City in a small school that I've heard, and yeah, that's completely great.
And then we'll have we're talking about kind of the family too. We'll have Coach Ackman back here in a couple weeks for a game. We haven't had him here in a while. He's at Harrisburg. They'll come to town April 9th for people looking for things to do that day on a Saturday. Before we leave it, I do want to know, though, is there just any funny sort of moment that you can tell on the air throughout the years? I mean, I know there's all kinds of stuff that happens, whether it's somebody falling down just in the outfield or Coach Brown falling in the outfield.
Oh, I fell in the mud at Troy. Some people never let me down on that. When I'm waving a dude home, I take a step back and down I go. I can
still see his feet going over his head.
It's pretty athletic of me, actually, but yeah, I got soaked with mud. But that's the PG stuff that I can talk about. But yeah,
I think in was it 02? We're warming up, and the T-Bert story. Playing long toss before the game, and one of the guys kind of let the ball get away from him. And I don't know that much was said, but I think Tony wore it in a bad spot. And
well, there's like 26 kids playing catch on that side of the field. Yeah. Somebody was bound to get hit with the ball, and I think Tony laid underneath the bush the rest of the game. When we won our first district title, he was underneath the bush in a position to comfort himself.
Kept telling him we got ice.
Oh my. That's a good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Coach Carter, I remember you taking the ball to the face off of it and throwing BP in the cage. That was worried about your teeth being gone.
Right after getting implants. Yeah, that was great. So the next day I'd come in wearing a full cage hockey helmet. And wonderful.
If I could do it all over again, I would get life insurance if I knew I had to throw BP to Ronnie Ray and Larry Shimza and some of these guys. That L screen we had back in the day. It wasn't very secure. I think it had some holes in it, but somehow I survived.
I'm sure Coach Brones won't let me not say this one of the day at practice where I'm kind of standing up there for situational stuff, and we've got our pitchers throwing, he's up there throwing, and I know Coach Brones gets a little nervous here and there, but I'm standing up there for gonna hit a ball, and he's pitching, and all of a sudden he throws it straight at my face and hits me in the face, and I don't think I think the nerves and look on his face said it all after it happened, but it was pretty funny.
You went down like you got shot by a shotgun, and I don't think anybody moved for like 5 seconds. It's like, oh my gosh. And I don't know how he didn't tinkle himself, because I know he was scared to death, but everybody's happy when you got up.
I think Tanner Brown still's looking for the keys to the batter's box too. I remember that one. That was a good day. Took him a while to figure that out.
Another character we've had, Tanner Brown and Hank Vanderveer.
Yeah, we could go for probably hours to name all the different characters you guys have had. We didn't even mention like Jordan Buck and Bremer Camp and some of that group too through there.
Farrar and Hayes. I mean, that's another good group. I mean, just great kids.
The one story we have to tell, I think it was Farrar's group. They weren't playing very well, and we decided, that we weren't very happy with them, and we pulling into New Haven for a conference game, and I think we're like, look, guys, the circus, it is in town. It's been a circus for a while. It is in town. So Coach Reed, I think, decided to have a fun way to see who was going to make the lineup that day. But that's another great story. Those guys just like look over and see a carnival, and I'm like, the circus has beat us to New Haven. But those are some great moments. Those guys still talk about that when I see those guys. What happened that day.
That's the other big thing is the whistle from Coach Reed and the Brownieisms that will live on forever with everybody that's ever played in this program. We're getting towards the end of this. Before we kind of wrap it up, though, we did start play this week. I want to talk a little bit about this current team. We have 3 teams this year. We have a varsity, JV, and freshman. We'll jump into what the varsity did this week. They started out 2-0 with a couple big wins in the conference tournament. So the Indians beat Sullivan 6-1 on Saturday, 5-1, and then Owensville 11-1 on Monday.
I mean, the first game against Sullivan, it was kind of shaky. Our pitchers had a little trouble throwing strikes. It took our offense a little bit to get going, but once they did, we put a few runs up, and we got out of some big jams. I mean, I think our defense played pretty well, but I mean, I think we were in three of the innings where we had bases loaded and probably less than 2 outs, and it could have opened up for Sullivan, but we got some big outs, and just things kind of fell in place for us. But I mean, with that, we got to get some of those pitchers where they're able to throw strikes early, and I like what I see out of them when we'll start doing that.
And then like I said, the Owensville night, we had Jack Meyer through for us and was pretty good. And the offense finally got going a little bit and was able to short game Owensville in 5 innings to put us into the championship, which hopefully we'll get to play at some point. JV, you guys started over the weekend, a couple games. We'll touch on that a little bit previously in the show. Coach Carter, you guys start up next week?
Yeah, we're supposed to start today, actually, but that got pushed back. So looks like first game is on Tuesday at home against Hillsborough. So looking forward to that.
All right, and before we wrap, anybody else have anything they want to throw out, moments that over the course of this year? You guys have been here for a while. I mean, I've been sure to point that out a couple times since we're still on the younger side.
Kicking the shins.
All right, and then if not, though, I got one thing for Coach Reed to finish on. If there's one thing you can kind of say to all your guys that have been through this program, managers, girls, all of it, here's your chance to just throw it out there. Just anything you want to say.
Just, I love and appreciate everybody that's had a part, and, I'm looking for continued success for everybody, and, just looking for bright things in the future. But all the past players, managers, all of them, I just love you guys.
All right, and that'll do it for this. This should be a fun one because everybody's been asking to hear from all of us to talk a little bit about program history. So that'll do it for us today on the roundtable. Join us again next week for our normal show, and the guest will be to be determined right now. I believe it'll be Coach Mendersky as it stands right now from track. So until next week, everybody, please keep up the chatter.